All right, thank you, Howard. Folks, at 7 o'clock, we'll get the workshop started. Everybody want to stand for the pledge of allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do the invocation. Lord, please give us the wisdom to carry out the county business tonight. Please be with us in safe travels home. Let's be with the sick and shut in who are unable to attend. And thank you for the rain. We sure do need it. Amen.
Who got rain?
I got rain. I got rain.
I didn't get none.
I bring half inch last night.
Yeah,
Four Townsend.
Yeah, but it's gotta go back that
He's
way.
1,000 yards through the woods. He got an inch and a half, inch and 3/4. I got a half inch.
We got 20 drops.
You know, I went through Chula, Genito, all that out towards Paynesville, Deatonville Tuesday. And you go by one cornfield, corn looks good. You go half mile up the road, the corn's twisted and yay tall.
But down y'all's way is a whole lot drier than we
Oh,
are.
we hurting.
You turn right there on 153 on 460, go down by Richland, Derry.
Yeah.
It's pitiful damn fish up.
Yep. All right, what we doing, ball time?
all right. As far as on the agenda tonight, we were going to discuss the solar ordinances that the zoning board recommended. Joseph, do you have something you want to add to the?
Yeah, I'd like to amend the agenda to add 2 topics regarding employee salaries at the end. I can just walk you through them then.
Okay. All right, Ms. Holly, you want to kick us off here?
Yes, I'm gonna apologize in advance. This is gonna be information overload. I guess the best way to go through it is just each item that the planning commission suggested maybe changing. And we can talk through some different options. So on the first page, if you look,
Can we start with just clarifying this would only apply to future applications?
yes, so this would not at all apply to the Torch project because they applied before this. This would apply to any project that applies once this is adopted. So anyone who applies before this is adopted technically could still go with the existing ordinance
Right.
unless the board put out some kind of pause on that. Okay. So looking at letter E, as far as the location, and the color coding in this, the black is what we already have. That's our existing ordinance. The red is what was suggested by the zoning committee, and the blue are Jeff's comments. So as far as location, there is interest in increasing the setbacks so that no utility scale solar could be located within 1,000 feet of any roadway or occupied residence. As far as the public right of way, Jeff made a comment that that particular rule might not fly. So as far as the setbacks, increasing those to 1,000. Right now, they just have to meet the setbacks for the zoning district that they're in. So likely it's 100 from the front and then 40 on the sides. That's what the majority of the county is.
Is private roadway already defined somewhere? Like, so just trying to clarify, is it just a road someone uses or is it an official road into the system?
Right away.
I guess what we're trying to capture is all public roads and any other road, be it a driveway, a private road, an easement,
Yeah.
anything like that.
That's what I was afraid of is, yeah.
Okay, so that. Another thing, so we had a meeting today with Nottaway. So one thing I want to pop in for this, they allow utility scale solar in their industrial zoning districts. We currently do not. I would say there's issues on both sides of that. Industrial is obviously our most valuable land. So maybe using solar on those properties is not the best and highest use, but it would be very compatible with other industrial uses. So that's just a judgment call for you all. Okay, some localities, if we're looking at G, have put in their ordinance that no more than X percentage of the county can be dedicated to solar. Greenville County, for example, said 5%, 6%, something like that, and it came out to about 6,000 acres. We talked to Jeff about doing that and he didn't feel that that was a great way of going about doing it. You can see in his response that it would be better to increase setbacks and beef up our buffers and all of that instead of putting the acreage requirement. Then looking at H, we now allow equipment and panels to be up to 25 feet. But that is a bit tall and could be taller than their landscaping buffer. So, and most panels are not that tall. So we could reduce that. The example he gave was 15 feet. So that's an option to consider as well. Okay, moving down to J with the utility connection. We had discussed as a way to kind of limit the amount of solar coming in of just a blanket rule that no battery storage could be permitted. Because using that logic, once the lines are tapped out, that's it. That's all the solar the county would see. Jeff said that's probably also not going to be very legally defensible in court, and he would know. So again, he says a better way is to just more strictly define battery storage and the regulations surrounding that.
And we could do that with setback.
Yeah, and tighter, like right now, we don't really have anything.
No, the
Exactly.
battery it's these examples here of how to manage the batteries. They don't necessarily, the battery doesn't necessarily impact the setback the same way.
I mean,
Yeah,
got all
but
these.
do a big setback, like if you want to do battery storage and you've got to be 5,000 feet from property line or, we could do.
But that wouldn't necessarily, that could be really, like, you might only have battery storage on it. Batteries aren't usually spread through the whole facility. So you could say the battery is 5,000. I don't know, it wouldn't really be necessary to say the whole facility, 5,000.
No, just
You could
the
put
battery.
you could put the battery portion.
Yeah, because from what I've read and hear about it, they're the fire hazard. And I don't think we're set up to be able to extinguish that fire.
What they're telling us, they work, especially on the electric vehicles, just more or less watch it.
You got to
Yeah.
submerge them.
Yeah.
I was told they had to be submerged or something to put them out.
But a lot of them let them burn out,
It'll eventually burn.
burn out.
It's only one fire department in California that's designed a truck that's got a crane and it's like a dump truck full of water and they just pick it up, submerge it. We're not there yet, so we would probably just watch it.
Well, I like the batteries being 5,000 feet or something like that.
I think we need to do something.
But I think these other ones are really good too. Like, I mean, if you're requiring the fire suppression systems, that kind of thing, it helps a lot too. So, I mean, I think he's got a lot of great language right here.
okay, so then we'll go to K. Right now, we're only requiring a 25 feet wide landscaping buffer. Jeff gave an example. 25 feet really is not that much.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not a lot at all. So other localities, the one he gave an example of did 150 feet as a landscaping buffer. So really anything more than 25 would be an improvement, but
Yeah. I like the detail on what actually is the buffering too, because I think we see that even regardless, not about solar, but we see that with buffers all around the county. You can just plant a tree, whether it lives or not, counts as having done a buffer, and that just doesn't work. So this detail is really good.
yes.
I took some video of the one in King William this weekend, down in the bottom.
Good buffer or bad buffer?
No buffer.
No buffer.
There's a tree about every 50 feet. Half of them are dead. And it's right on, it's right on 360. I mean, it's
Yeah.
terrible
It
looking.
runs right down
It
side
is the
360.
nastiest looking thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. There's one in Cumberland that looks bad on 13 too, no buffers.
No buffer, right. Okay, so on the next page, going down to P2 about decommissioning. This was a real sticking point for some of the planning commissioners that our ordinance says that we require the bond before we'll issue a building permit for them. As you all know, we can negotiate an alternate agreement in the siting agreement. So we had discussed potentially changing that to line up with how we're treating the siting agreements. But Jeff said we would have more bargaining ability and probably it's just better all around if we leave it as that and then negotiate it on a case by case basis of when the bond should be posted. However, he said if we did want to change something, we could change, instead of every 5 years them having to recalculate the bond, we could reduce that to 3 years that they have to recalculate it. And that's what we're doing with the torch project, is every
Yeah.
3 years.
That was safer.
Okay, going down to Q to the application requirements. One thing that is not required, but we did discuss today with Nottaway, is they actually require a community meeting prior to even applying. And I don't think that's a bad idea for us to make that a requirement. I mean, Torch has done many, and I know the other project looking to apply is planning to do that, but I think it's not a bad idea to put that in the requirement.
Did he say two meetings? Oh, he said two,
Maybe it was two.
but one is better than nothing.
Yeah, absolutely. And so then if you flip to the next page, 7, 8, and 9 were just added in, and these will need to be beefed up a little bit. But I think there's some additional studies that we should probably get. We've talked about soil a lot, so doing a soil study. And these would all be on the applicant's dime, obviously not the county. An environmental assessment, and then a full wetlands delineation.
All those are required by the state anyway, is my understanding.
Yeah, I mean,
So
if,
we're just, that's just the same as what the state's.
I know they do require the wetlands delineation. As far as the soil study, I don't know if the state, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know about the soul part.
They may, I don't know about the soil. Okay,
Well, I would be careful on some of these. So so the wetlands, if you find wetlands, there's already a clear what you do about wetlands. So makes sense, put it in, sounds good. Doing a soil study,
What are you gonna do with it when you get it?
Well, we're gonna tie that, hopefully we're gonna tie that in.
Well, then-
Something else in a minute, I hope.
okay. I mean, same with the environmental. If there's not something that then comes from it, I don't know that there's a lot of point in doing.
environmental assessment, some things were brought up about the different species that could be on a property, and some of that will get captured, because that seems to be a sticking point, for some, so.
Yeah, but
I know that the FSA, USDA
Mhm.
checks all the farms around, especially if they got new fields coming in production for wetland determination.
Okay,
But they're also slow as you know what. They
Right.
finally did one on my place, next to
Okay.
your daddy's house.
okay,
It took them 8 years to finally come out and determine that it was a top of a hill. It wasn't a swamp.
Sounds crazy.
okay,
But you follow what I'm saying is
right.
determining these wetlands,
Mhm.
if the proper agency doesn't get in there and at the get-go,
Mhm.
could create a problem.
they could hire their own people.
Yeah, you can,
They have, that's the point I'm
that's,
trying to make.
that's the difference.
Do
Yeah,
that before they even get to us,
Yeah.
because they're not interested in the site if it's
Yeah,
right.
all
I know.
wetlands.
Not usable.
Okay, so then Jeff's next comment under R, we do not have specific conditions right now. We do put conditions in there, but it's essentially just a copy and paste of what the ordinance says. So he gave some suggestions of things we could put in there as conditions that he's used in other localities. And those would be standard for every project. And there's a lot of those, about 3 pages worth.
That's fine. I mean, it says the board of supervisors can change, add, or remove any of them anyway, so it
Exactly.
doesn't really matter.
Okay, so the other component to this is the comprehensive plan. So as you all know, the ordinance is something you have to follow. The comprehensive plan is essentially just a guide. However, for solar projects, they do have to be substantially in accord with the comprehensive plan if they're going to be approved. So as far as some things like the soils, it doesn't have to be a hard and fast rule in the ordinance, but it could be put in the comprehensive plan of, okay, what did you call it? Number 5?
Type 3, 4, and 5.
Type 3, 4, and 5 soils are extra great, and we don't want to put solar on those. So the comprehensive plan would be the place to put things like that.
Mhm.
That there could be exceptions to, but we would rather not have solar there. And Jeff created this, he put some other pretty good ideas that you all might want to consider adding into either zoning or the comprehensive plan about the size of projects. Some localities have limited it to where they don't allow any less than 10 megawatts or any projects that don't have siting agreements. They've completely Xed those out. So if you all wanted to have a minimum acreage for a solar project, that's also something it could be in the zoning ordinance or comprehensive plan.
I like this. They gotta have a site agreement, because that gives
Yeah,
us
I do.
Yeah, it gives you more bargaining power,
bargaining power,
absolutely.
and the county actually comes out.
And I don't think we want a bunch of little ones all over the place.
Right. So that was the very quick rundown of everything in here. I don't know if you all want to go back to each one and discuss, or if there's questions or how you want to tackle.
Like on the setback,
Okay,
it's always utility size. Why can't we just do a setback period of 1,000 feet or whatever it is, whatever everybody wants to decide on
all right.
across the board?
Okay, well,
It could be like if you put that would be like if you put one for your house though.
utility scale is anything above 1 megawatt. So essentially, the only things not being captured are what you're putting in
It's like
your
if you-
house and your.
If you said for any of them and you want to put them on your roof, then you wouldn't be able to.
Yeah.
Because they'd have to be 1,000 feet from your house.
And none of that, residential and small commercial uses are not captured in this. Those are accessory uses.
Yeah.
So when people put them on their homes.
That's what
or
we're
the
avoiding.
Small ones in their
Yeah.
backyards, they don't have to come before the planning commission or anything because it's just being used to power their home and garage.
You might want to do that. We got one on Crowell's Road. They got it right in the front yard. In front of the house.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sure that made the neighbors happy, but whatever.
Right.
But I was just looking to try to keep it.
That works. Yeah.
Do we want to limit?
We don't want to go there.
We don't want to, do we want
Cars on cinder blocks.
A house that's got over 50 trash bags full in the front yard.
to limit like a residential solar? I mean, that's kind of a.
But it already, I mean, that's the point of the
You could remove.
descriptions
residential.
already.
If you wanted to go that route, I guess you could put a clause in there to remove residential solar service to your residence from that setback.
Well, if it goes in here, this is
This
just the
is-
utility scale.
I was gonna say, this is all
Required.
that's already done. Like this is already, the point is this already only goes to the large ones. It already excludes.
The solar energy system large and
Yeah.
solar energy system small, those are just accessory uses, so they have to meet the accessory setbacks, which is 100 off the front, 10, 10, and 10.
Okay, well, how about the one on Genito Road?
The utility scale one,
Yeah, that's
That's
utility.
utility scale?
yeah,
It's
And it,
10
would-
megawatts.
yeah,
That's not that far off the road, though.
it's,
The setback has changed then, from then to now?
no, because that just got approved in
Yeah.
early 2020. No, it's 100 off the road, but then it only has to be 40 on the sides and rear.
right. That's why we're
Because
talking about.
right now, our ordinance just says it has to meet the underlying zoning district setbacks.
I like 1,000 feet.
I do
Any
too.
home,
Yeah.
and I like the 800 feet from the property line, which they can put their buffers in that. Can we get to that? Is that a point we want to get to?
Yeah, I'm fine with either of those.
Okay, so 1,000 feet sides and rear and 800 from a road? Is that what you said?
I think he said for property line.
Property line.
Oh, okay.
At least
Just
1,000.
do 1,000 all the way around and keep it simple.
There was 200 more people.
Oh, we're the only, is it not recording?
No, it is.
Oh.
I think that's fair on a large scale. At least 800 feet setbacks from property lines, but I would like to see at least 1,000 feet from the closest resident.
Mm-hmm.
That,
I mean, I don't wholly disagree with the 1,000 across the board. And I think if it comes down to it and a project is like, hey, we can't meet it. Well, I don't want to say that's the point of it,
Well,
but
it kind of is.
it kind of is.
Yeah.
I didn't want to say that.
Well, it's-
Oh, I agree. I think it is the point. I think it is the point. I mean, yeah, I like I'm fine with the 800 or 1,000, I like the simplicity of 1,000. The private roadway is the one that concerns me because there's not a clear definition of, I mean,
That, I think, needs to be cleared up on
Yeah.
something. 'Cause I mean, you don't want to drive by it if you, say somebody wants to come next to your farm
right.
and
Right.
your driveway's right here and they're gonna put it right there and you go look at it every day.
But it'd be 1,000 feet from it.
That's a problem.
Not,
Yeah, that's the way it's written.
well,
That's the way it's written. No, but that's what actually concerns me is there is no definition. For the fact,
have an
what you just said is what
easement
concerns me, that it would keep that away. I mean, if I can just go out, if there's no definition of private roadway, then I can go out right as soon as they do the public meeting, which is before anything starts. I can just go clear a road
the road in.
and then they're restricted. I mean,
Right.
That's a fair.
yeah, it needs to be, like, if you want to say a driveway of if we talk about an occupied residence, driveway of an occupied residence.
Existing.
Yeah, like put some parameters around that, because we're trying to put the parameters around the solar companies, which is good, but we also don't want everything else just becoming
Yeah,
where it's unenforceable.
okay.
How would that affect, say, God forbid, somebody buys a piece of land beside a solar facility and puts a driveway in?
It's not existing.
It would,
Yeah.
We need to state existing.
They would still be 1,000 feet from that property line.
Yeah.
already, they already would have been, yeah, yeah. So it would make them a minimum of 1,000 feet from that driveway,
Okay.
yeah.
But I do think you need to have existing in there. That way it covers what Joseph was talking about.
But what you just said is a good point too, that limits that ability to kind of mess with it, because if you're already 1,000 away from the property line,
You can't put,
there's really nothing else they can do. I mean,
you can't put your driveway on their land.
Right.
Yeah.
right.
You still-
So that works. Okay. That was a good example you used. Yeah. Okay. I can be fine with all
Another
this.
thing.
Mhm.
You, over there on Genito, supposed to plant trees or shrubs around to help
Mhm.
hide the view.
Mhm.
When you go in there and plant a little shrub that tall,
Mhm.
I've seen nurseries have cedar trees as tall as this top of this room right here.
Yep.
I think it should be a height requirement on the shrubs
Okay.
and how close together they are. You can't plant them 50 foot apart and
Okay.
think that you're gonna hide the view of that thing.
Okay.
And
So,
over,
I think that's,
so that's what they've done.
so that's covered on the fifth page, number 2. So he says like triple row of trees planted on average 15-foot centers.
Yeah, but how tall?
Yeah, and deciduous, they're 5 to 6 feet in height at the time of planting. You can change the height, but point is,
The height. That's-
point is, the detail is all here. It even describes what kind of trees they can be.
3 foot wide top.
They should be
Yeah.
10 foot, whatever, because they're gonna either live or die. Because they don't take care of them, they just throw them out there anyway. But if they do take off, it will be shielding the view that much quicker.
Well, I think we need to have something in there to cover them. If they die, they need to replace them.
Replace
They
them.
never replace them. Once they die,
Yeah.
they leave them. The one on three
I
sixty.
think that's in that one over there.
I think,
Uh-huh.
yeah,
When the one on Genito, they have to maintain a buffer. I'm pretty sure that.
I think it was too.
Agreement.
it is.
Does it say it has to live?
Yes.
Yeah,
What were you-
by maintaining it, you do.
They have to guarantee.
They're not gonna get final sign off on theirs the way it currently is, because it does have to be a 25-foot landscaping buffer.
Right.
And this increases it to, I mean, examples, but, we're talking about either the 150-foot buffer, and then the example here is 50-foot of landscaping. So buffer 150, 50-foot of that's at least gotta be planted. We can change the numbers, anything there.
But we definitely like the language number 2, that's more detailed about what the trees.
2, 3, and 4 are incredibly detailed. I mean, even like that should not have a uniform appearance like a dike. I mean, these are good descriptions, sculpted, vertical and horizontal.
So do we want to replace what we have with what Jeff provided? Do you all?
Yeah, but I think
We can then
we're
move the
going
numbers.
to adjust some of the height of the shrubbery and all that, I guess.
Okay.
Like, would you say, Dexter, 5-foot top? Like this one has 3 foot. You said 5.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
It just, that would just hide it that much quicker when you already got
Yeah.
that much space up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Because
mean, I would love for them to be hid, period.
Yeah, it'd be 20 years before they.
Yeah.
Had any.
So you kind of have to do a range though, based on how this is written, because the fact they can't be all the same height. So if you change the 4 to 6 to like 8 to 10, and you change the 3 to a 5.
Okay, change it, okay.
You see the more willow trees they advertise in the back of some of these magazines that grow within 2 or 3 years, showing them up yonder, I don't know how tall.
They need to be taller than the structures.
Yeah.
So if we reduce the structures to 15 foot,
Yeah.
trees need to be taller.
Yeah.
than-
Well, they will be by the time you have the slope that, because you require the berm on here. If you do the 6 to 8 plus the berm that's required, then you would be at the 15 foot or higher.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, when they're staggered, it doesn't. Yeah, I guess that'll work out.
Yeah, because you've got to have at least, because of the fact that it's at least 3 deep, then the staggering closes all the holes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did we discuss the buffer? The overall buffer, at least 150 foot? I mean, they got 800 feet to work it with.
Yeah. So they do 150.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
All of it.
Use
The rest of it probably be
existing
buffer.
vegetation,
Right.
so you all feel good with the 150?
Yeah.
Down here. All right, let's jump back.
Can I ask one question about that?
Absolutely.
It's a 150 foot buffer
Mhm.
and it's 800 foot setback. Is that an 800 foot setback before a panel? Fence?
The setbacks are inclusive of everything, so it would be from the fence. The fenced in area counts as the structure, so it would be 800 or 1,000 from the fence.
Okay.
All right, let's hop back to letter H, the height on the second page,
Mhm.
where we have 25 feet. Do we feel better with what Jeff suggested with the 15?
10. I don't know why they want them so tall anyhow. I've never seen one that tall.
When they open up, they're taller. They open up, it's the way the torch people explained it to me. So that was one.
When it pivots.
Yeah.
Okay.
The fan's 6 foot, then they open all the way up.
Well, and they do have that number 3 line. If you wanted
Well, and
to
50,
pretend that says you all can, you have the right to say, okay, we said it can only be 10, but yours are 12 and we'll allow it.
well, I mean, the 15 is fully covered by all of the berms and trees that we just described. So I don't see that you need to push it down below
Okay.
what you already, I mean,
All right.
Agree.
I do too.
15 feet instead of 25. Okay.
They put them on the hillside, you can go up 50 foot here and you wouldn't catch the ones on the other side up there.
Okay. Okay, then on page 3, the battery storage, since we don't currently have anything on battery storage, did we want to add in this additional information on battery storage that Jeff provided?
seems pretty reasonable.
I know very little about battery storage.
I mean, he's got over a page worth of requirements that seem, I mean, that's what we want, is more requirements if they're allowed to do it.
Right.
Is,
I like this one about they have to do the report, the inspection and report every 6 months. I mean, all that stuff seems better than what we have now.
Yeah.
the, we call them wildlife corridors.
Mhm.
You know, the torch one. If they have batteries, would we want to require some type of, that way if it does catch fire, we would have some way to contain it to one section? I mean, because it's no putting it out. All we're doing is protecting
It's just-
exposures.
Okay. So what what could we put in there? Like some kind of setback of the battery storage from anything else?
Yeah,
What,
I
what could
think
it
it needs
leave?
to be away from everything. If they want battery storage,
Okay,
it should be away from everything. Think about it.
Yeah. they
Let's
put
not
the
make it
panels,
easy.
Melt them.
Let's not make it easy.
okay, so what is a reasonable distance for the battery storage to be from any other panel or anything?
You're the fireman right here. then.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that
Well,
should
to be-
probably be researched
Okay,
and look at what they're using as best practice already. I mean,
okay,
Just to reference back in, this does say it has to then meet the standard about the best practices of the National Electric Code and National Fire Code and the national, like all these codes.
okay, so if that are, those might already,
I think we should check and see if they have those kind of requirements. If they do, then if they get more stringent over time and we can follow theirs, you don't have to keep,
right,
we don't want to be less stringent than what the new
right. That's,
expectation
if we
is.
say something that's
Yeah.
less than what they already require.
right,
Well, and then it also that they have to have a secondary layer of physical containment. So that helps with separating from other things too.
I would expect DEQ's gonna require that if that battery catches on fire, it's a lot of stuff, there'll be a lot of runoff. They probably don't want to go into the regular water basin.
They might have to burn around on batteries.
Yeah, put in concrete
Yeah.
pods on theirs.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you gotta have the foundation, because you install the foundations. Yeah, all that's in there.
Right?
All that's in there.
They burn hot, from what I hear.
Oh, yeah.
Do we want to limit the number of batteries? I mean, I don't know how many batteries.
I see that, I don't either, I don't know enough about batteries to know what would be a good way to limit that.
I think we need to look at what's in these codes. I would bet there's something in that. Let's see if we can figure out what that says. I bet there's something in there about you can't have more than so many, together.
Mhm.
And don't forget to catch Todd's thing about 5,000 feet from the battery instead of, where we had 1,000-foot buffers for the other,
Okay, so back to the setbacks, it's for battery storage, 5,000 feet from property lines, residences,
from the battery stuff.
from batteries, yeah.
Right, is that where we landed?
Yeah, I think,
It's almost a mile.
Well, but they could put, that can incentivize them
you
to
ain't
put
gonna
the
have-
batteries in, the center locations, things
If
like
they're not
that.
buying a piece of property that's a mile wide, how are they gonna put it a mile from anything?
Well, the minimum recommendation now is they're not gonna put, I think they gotta be a couple hundred acres before the batteries even become viable.
Well, yeah, but that's still. That's a huge piece of property.
No, maybe we do like
How many acres is in a square mile?
640. Two or three, 642.
so you'd have to have double that.
So you'd have to have, yeah,
Okay,
A square mile.
so that you're talking, they'd be using up 800 to 1,000 acres every time.
you just won't have battery storage.
Well, or that, but yeah. But I don't know that we can legally, that's the
I can check with,
side Holly was talking
Yeah.
about.
yeah,
Right, we're not voting.
A setback, we should be able to legally require a setback, whether that eliminates
You can't
storage or not.
require impossible setbacks. I think.
Right,
that's
which
the
is why
problem.
It's
because it's
not
the thing.
impossible. You just gotta buy a big enough piece of land to make it work.
But people are already saying they're using too much land.
1,800 acres. You
Right,
have a
okay.
circle with the pi times radius squared.
Mm-hmm.
You have a circle, it'd take 1,800 perfectly circular property to
Put the
have
batteries in the middle.
5,000 feet in the middle.
so to put that in perspective, the Torch project, the entire property is not 1,800.
Well, they're not getting battery storage anyhow.
Well, they're not, that's
They're not.
correct, but,
Yeah, that's their problem.
Sorry?
One other thing, and I know it says on page 2, lighting. Lighting shall be limited to the minimum necessary to meet all requirements.
mm-hmm,
Now, this lighting.
Mhm.
Is it, like your floodlights at night? Or what I'm trying to say is, no one wants to be looking way across yonder and there's a row of lights
Right.
at nighttime.
right,
You know what,
mm-hmm,
something to that nature should be addressed
Okay. We could beef that up and say that they have to be, downward facing. and-
Yeah, we, you don't want, we just gotta make it as friendly as we can.
Well, and Torch just put a lot of requirements in about their lighting, so at minimum, we could go with, go with what they just offered up as a starting point.
And you don't want a full moon every night.
Right, okay. All right, I'll look back and see what Torch put for that. All right, take us.
Holly, I'm having a hard time, it's long, but I'm having a hard time finding the part about having to maintain the buffers. I think can we just check and make sure that feels like that's addressed somewhere in there? So I just can't.
Have it in hours in the last sentence, but yes, and then
Where,
in the stuff that,
Help me
it
with
just
that.
says, in the event that existing vegetation or landforms providing screening are disturbed, new plantings shall be provided which accomplish the same.
yeah, but the whole purpose of what we were saying is if they die, they gotta be replaced. That piece. So the maintaining, whatever, like,
Okay,
it's not okay to just plant it once and
okay.
it's got to,
You got them
I
clear.
think they should start maintaining the property once they start the facility. I mean, they've not cut the grass up here on Genito Road
Oh, Lord,
since they started prior.
no section's full of tree stumps.
Yeah.
well, we agreed earlier this year, we didn't wanna make people cut their grass though, so that's challenging.
Right.
By the way, I wasn't in favor of that, but
Okay, so we'll add a section in there saying they have to maintain the buffer as well.
yeah.
Okay,
Maybe the grass will grow 15 foot tall.
there you go. Screen-
They put Johnson grass out there.
Yeah.
It's illegal.
That buffalo grass out there.
Yeah.
Little bamboo here and there.
No, don't put no bamboo out.
So are you about to
No
say
more.
about agricultural areas, how we can't make them cut the grass? No.
I'm not so sure with the Anderson thing, that additional buffer that they put in, that they didn't plant it in pine trees. Where the broom straw is,
Okay,
I think they said they were gonna plant pines.
I think maybe they, for southern yellow.
I've just had a few people tell me, complain about them not cutting around the fence and stuff, that's why I brought it up.
That brings my other question. The vegetative buffer, if we've got 1,000-foot setback, is the buffer to be at the property line to shield everything, or is it to be over next to the fence where the project starts?
Doesn't seem to require it could be on either side. Is that-
I guess depending where it is, it might, because if there's on one side of Genito, there's probably a 10-foot buffer. And if they put 25 feet, I'd still be able to see it. So it actually could make a difference on some sites.
A lot of difference.
You come off the fence.
Right here, you're 10 foot up. You can't see over it, but if you put
Right.
10 foot over there away, you can
Right,
see
right
over it.
distance, yeah.
Okay,
It would be.
So you want it on that, so you want it on the outside line?
Yeah, around the
I'd be able to
outside,
perimeter of the fence.
yeah.
okay, okay.
And you know, that's yourself, I mean, so.
They planting pine trees for their buffer?
As part of it. I think it's the very inner or very outer. I don't remember.
I mean, they're gonna have something else with
It's
it.
supposed to be a 3-layered thing, I think.
Fast growing, remember?
Yeah, the outside, the bushes or whatever, yeah.
10 years, a pine tree ain't gonna shade nothing,
Mhm.
see at all.
Got these super pines that grow fast if you let them put sludge on it. They got some down around the house, they cut that timber. I was shocked at all the pine trees, that's quick as they did.
They don't wait for that.
Oh, no, they ain't worth a darn, they chip wood. They're no good for lumber.
All right,
Holly, do you remember the,
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. I just found that section in, I don't know if no page numbers, but in Jeff's
oh,
number 5 about the landscaping plan. So have to submit the plan for review and approval. Owner shall construct, maintain, and operate in compliance with the approved plan. So I think that covers the part.
Mhm.
and a separate security deposit for the ongoing maintenance of the land cover and vegetative buffers in an amount deemed sufficient by the zoning administrator. Failure to maintain landscaping in accordance with the plan may result in the issuance of a notice of violation. But it was farther removed from the other sections. I didn't see it earlier. Sorry, David, go ahead. There's a lot in that, actually.
Do you remember the studies that Nottaway was talking about? It was 3 of them. One was the wetland, one was the soil study. One more.
Is it these three here that got added? There's wetland, soil, and then environmental?
I thought it was one more, and then I don't remember them.
Okay, hold on, let me.
A different third one than environmental, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so they require soils. They require a natural heritage and wildlife management study.
That's-
That's what we're lacking. That's what you,
That's it.
yeah.
I'd say put it in there.
Yeah. Doesn't hurt.
Now's the time.
Okay, so do we want to take maybe their, I'll read y'all exactly what they have. I
I
did,
think, and then check about like, are these the normal terms people use for things too? Because that could mean environmental, but be more specific. Like, environmental was very vague. So I like this,
Yeah.
I like the specifics of that, but there's probably some standard industry terms for what those assessments are called.
so Nottaway says a natural heritage and wildlife management study consistent with the Virginia Division of Wildlife Resources solar energy facility guidance that identifies any threatened or endangered species and wildlife travel patterns, together with any necessary mitigation measures to ensure compatibility of the project.
Well, that
I
sounds,
think that's fair.
that sounds good, because that gets to my earlier question about like, what are you gonna do? So then that says and what you do too, but I like,
And that kind of throws it at the state, which means we don't have to, there's no
Right.
enforcement for us.
Ask you a question. How about if they started, we're on the back part of the property, they go up on a cemetery?
I think they already have to follow a state code for
Yeah,
that.
there's for that.
There. You're dead in the water there.
Yeah. Because that happened at the landfill. They found one, then they had to relocate it.
What was the organization that the tower in Manborough?
Oh,
Hip
Yeah.
House or something like that?
Hippo.
yeah,
Mhm.
yep.
That was excessive.
Okay, that wouldn't be covered, but
I don't know. It's a good
Under-
question.
when we asked for these environmental studies, is that gonna be?
That's a
Into that
historical
heritage piece.
study. Oh, yeah.
But that's.
Probably in that heritage piece right there.
See what's in that heritage study.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Sure.
And I don't think we talked about the soil study. But there, what are we gonna do if it comes back as a 5?
Well, I guess the good news is we're requiring it. We have to give it to us. So all I think is before planning commission even. I guess that's right. All this is before planning commission.
Yes, they would have to include all
So-
this with their application.
Then the planning commission, and then if eventually board would be able to review, so you could push them to remediate or else.
Okay.
I'm torn because I think your example of SHPO just pulled me back from my earlier comment about how much you want to say you must do, because that was excessive. I think if you do this, I'm more now kind of flopping back from my earlier statement. If you force them to do the studies, then we have the information and we can then say what we want done about it, but not having to mandate in the code, remediate something that maybe
Somebody walked here.
didn't matter. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I can do some digging into the whole heritage study component and see what that entails.
Yeah, that was part of it.
Well, that was
And I-
part of
and
it.
I agree with what he's saying, but
You can go to the USDA office right there, and they can pull a map up and tell you every soil type in Amelia where it's at.
Well, and I think that's our main goal.
Every piece of land in Amelia, like mine's got like 5 different types of soil in it. But Amelia is very known as, there's different types and it's not consistent, it's just.
Yeah,
well, you-
body.
It's a spot.
Yeah.
It's not like down east, it's sand land down
So
there.
then maybe not a whole
Same.
soil study, but they just have to provide us with what type of soil they have at their site.
Yeah,
Because I
but
think beyond that, we don't
I
particularly.
mean, we can go right over there and get the information and look at it ourselves and tell us what the best soil
No,
is
you can't.
for your land, you can.
You can get it on this right here, but you ain't gonna go over there and get a map. I tried.
You can ask for specific places, not overall. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But again, what are we gonna do with it? I mean, if we get it
Yeah.
and it's just on a class 5 soil,
I go vote against it. That's what I'm gonna do. You cannot replace it. That's the whole thing. I
Well,
mean, you cannot take a piece of sorry ground and turn into a productive grain, corn, beans. Piece of land.
Said earlier,
it's to be in the
why
zone
is
for
the
the comp
fields
plan.
that
right?
we have now fields? Because they're
They're
some of the
productive.
best land we got.
That's right.
Because back in the 1800s.
And why do they want them? Because they don't have to grow up stumps. It's cheaper for them.
Back in the day, they claim it's more woodland now than it was 100 years ago.
It is.
And the woodland, the poor land got put back in the forest because it wasn't economical to keep farming.
What scares me with all this right now is I guess you could call it greed or not looking into the future. You gotta have cropland to survive. And if you're taking the easy hit by turning cropland into solar farms, they say they put it all back in 20 or 30 years. Does not happen.
No, it don't.
You cannot do that.
That's just.
I don't care what.
So we would require it for them, but we don't require that for if you want to build a house on the land. Like we let houses take over farms all the
I
time.
know, see, I don't agree with that neither, but you know, it's
the ease of converting it back. A solar is a whole lot easier than going out and ripping up a shopping center or house subdivision.
mhm.
Because you got so much other infrastructure in there to have to take care of.
That's right.
So you just
That could be debated.
get them all out of the way. But we ain't gonna worry about that.
See, to me, it's just so much easier. That's why they desire that open land. Because it's cheaper. So y'all do excavating. They go pay $2,500 an acre, or $3,500 an acre to grow up stumps. But if they go over here and get that piece of open land, they just saved that money. They didn't have to spend it. But
I have a concern whenever we say property rights unless it's
I know.
property that I care about.
But I'm looking, we have got to eat. We've all got kids. We're gonna have grandkids or got grandkids and all that. So I mean, what we do today affects down the road. And you brought up subdivisions. I mean, I'm not a fan of a subdivision
Not either.
into a farm, period.
Not
I
either.
think if you want to do a 5 acre or 10 acre lot, I think it ought to be in a piece of woodland instead of farmland. But I mean,
Are you speaking of cutting your own throat on your business? So let's.
I don't care. That's not important. It's not important. That's,
Yeah,
We do.
I understand.
All right. Well, we've moved on from the topic.
but still about soil though. So I mean,
Holly, can you look at some other localities and see if they address soil types?
Sure.
And get us some information. Probably need to have some conversation about it. I'd be interested to see that map that Dexter's talking about. How much class 5 is around?
we don't have hardly any 5. Amelia has very little 5. We have 3 and 4. That's the majority of our cropland.
Amelia County is in the top 10 in agriculture for a reason. Our soil.
Yeah.
All the surrounding counties around here does not have as productive soil as Amelia County does. And anybody can tell you, why do you think we got so many of these mega farmers out of county want to rent land in Amelia? That's one reason why. Because they always say it's good cropland. Amelia is known to have some of the best corn yields in the state. And it takes good land to make corn.
We'll just get some information on it. And see how much 5, see how much 4,
Okay.
and we just. I think it needs some discussion,
Oh, yeah.
but we need to see what we're dealing with
Mhm.
also. Is that good with everybody?
All right. Moving ahead to page 5, at the bottom, decommissioning. Well, actually, we'll go to page 6, so that's the relevant section. Number 3. So we're now saying the decommissioning cost estimate has to be recalculated every 5 years. Would we like to reduce that to 3?
Mhm.
That's what we did with torch.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me,
That way we don't get burnt.
is there anything else, any other concerns with decommissioning that you all wanted to address?
No, but we mentioned requiring a siting agreement and I don't, he's got that note at the bottom of that same section, so just make sure you pick that up.
Okay.
Because I think we all said we like that.
Alright. Okay, so then on the next page, so 7, 8, 9 about the studies, we need to clean that up a little bit. We discussed that. Okay, so as far as the conditions that Jeff suggested that took up a few pages, I don't know if we need a little time to look through what all those conditions are. But we currently don't have any, so we definitely need some.
They're long, but they really just require, it's actually just plans. So a construction plan, a construction mitigation plan, erosion and sediment plan, stormwater plan, landscaping plan, and decommissioning plan. I mean, they all seem very reasonable. I think if you cleaned them up and drafted them, then we could look at in more detail.
I like the VDOT one,
The flagging and all.
because they, a lot of times they don't get told about some things.
Okay. All right. So Jeff and I can go through those and clean it up a bit. Okay. Except for this one, I don't think this lines up with our current ordinance. Actually, I know it doesn't. If you look at the conditions Jeff sent, one says that the solar facility has to receive a building permit within 18 months of approval. And right now, we say that they have 2 years from time of approval to pull their building permit to start construction. Do we want to stick with the 2 years that we have in our ordinance, or do you all like the 18 months that is put in this? Right now, I think it's tricky. I know with the solar farms that are in now, and you all know this, getting some of their materials was very difficult and backed up. So might take a little longer.
But does that prevent them from pulling the permit?
No, I think they should have the permit before they start, like any other trade. A builder, plumber,
Yeah,
you
no, they
all
do.
have a, okay.
They do, 'cause they're-
They didn't.
No, their permits, the only permit they're pulling essentially is electrical,
Okay.
because it's not a dwelling.
They don't need a land.
What? Yeah, they have to do erosion and sediment control, stormwater management plan. As far as building permits, I think it's just electrical.
I believe I'd push it to 18 months. They go on and get started.
I agree with that.
Okay, okay.
Progress and
Mhm. Well, they got the section about a well, so if they do a well, they'd have to have permits for that. Which is fine, that still works what it's in.
So that was the majority of the feedback that we got from the zoning committee. We did not discuss the comprehensive plan with the zoning committee. There's a different comprehensive plan committee. But I guess there's a couple of decisions that need to be made. So the comprehensive plan, if we do want to add some additional things in there about solar, which I think at this point, as common as solar is probably a good idea. Do you want to we have the money in the budget. We have to update the comp plan this year regardless. Do you want to do that as part of the entire amendment, or did you want to go ahead and try and clean up solar now? And then do the rest of the entire comp plan update, because the comp plan updates can take about a year or so, year and a half for the full update.
If we do amendment, how long?
Still a few months.
But you're not required to follow the comp plan anyway, so it doesn't really. Change mine. I'm fine either way then, because it doesn't change it.
Just a guide.
Yeah.
What's the cheapest?
Would it be worthwhile to have the comp plan committee meet and maybe come back with a list of recommendations of what we think we need to change,
Sure.
and we focus on them, solar being one of them? Because I'm sure it's,
Well, that's what they're gonna have to do anyway. That's their normal process that they're gonna have to follow. Just make sure they address solar as part of it then.
we're getting close to having to do it. And
Yeah, it's already, that's why, yeah.
Yeah, I would think.
we went through the apartment phase, and we need to address some stuff like that. And I know last time we did it, we only got like 700
Right.
answers to the survey.
Right.
With social media and different outlets to get surveys in, I'm not opposed to going and maybe doing a review of the comp plan.
The full one review.
Well, we are. We have
Yeah,
no choice.
we have to do that.
Yeah.
And it's in the budget to do that.
I would,
So you would just want to go ahead and kick off the full
I would.
update. I mean, it's time to do it, so,
And then just put solar in it.
Yeah.
When it.
Okay. okay. So some of these comp plan things, I guess the biggest one that can be added for zoning, and Jeff said that whatever locality he pulled this from, did you all want to discuss putting a minimum acreage for solar in? So that you don't have a bunch of small projects, or a minimum wattage, I guess. Put that into. But I looked at,
I don't personally care if it's a small project, if it meets all these requirements.
okay,
I feel like it's more about meeting the
The
requirement than
setback,
it is the size.
the setback should
Right.
limit a lot of it.
Yeah.
yeah, true.
I-
Okay,
And even the smaller ones, we're gonna require a site agreement, so we'll still
Right.
be.
You would still have the same control.
okay,
Well, you gotta remember, it can't be for so many on the fire lines.
right,
Because the line won't allow it.
okay,
Yeah, we're on the two lines now. The only two lines in the entire county
all right.
are now
So
done.
it seems like the comp plan's a little less urgent than the zoning ordinance, but we will definitely update solar in the comp plan as part of the scheduled update. Okay. All right. What's up, Taylor? What's on your brain?
What would be going, what's the board going to allow to happen inside the buffer? And the reason I ask, if this is a highway and we're 1,000 feet off, we've got 1,000-foot setbacks, it's about 60 acres up there. Is that,
I was wondering about that too.
So
can a property owner build a house in there? If the property owner owns it?
I mean, I don't see why not, as long as they're meeting the setbacks for,
And pine trees.
All right, could he,
Yes, because they could, because it said existing structures.
existing,
So
right? So if they.
it wouldn't prevent a future,
They
it wouldn't
could
prevent a future structure.
Do that.
It wouldn't prevent a barn or putting cattle in that section or planting it and harvesting anything.
could he sell it off in 10 years? He passes away?
I think that's between them, but there is, and one of the things we
You
just.
can't, you would lose the setback, yeah.
We could,
If they sold it off, then the setback's gone, so.
That would kind of mess with
Thing is
the lease
gone.
agreement.
Wait, what do
We
you
need
mean
to
if
cover
they
that.
divided it and sold it?
Yeah, if he's saying there's 60 acres in front of
We're
it,
saying if they divided it.
yeah, if they tried to cut it off to sell
Later,
it.
if he could legally build a house
Huh?
or a horse barn or whatever.
Yeah.
30 years is a long time. If generations change or something, can you go in there? Do we need to restrict any further subdivision of that buffer while the solar farm is in operation?
That's not a bad idea.
Make it clean.
There is something in here that says, and I might have seen it in Nottaway stuff. No, it isn't something Jeff said, that we do have to be notified if there's any change in ownership or leasing or anything like that.
But only notified.
Yeah,
Right, notified. I mean,
Key.
we don't have any say,
Yeah.
but,
But in order to cut it, you'd have to go through zoning.
Right.
and I would say no, because it's within the buffer.
Yeah, but what if you're not here?
Then the next person should say, no, it's.
But what if
it's
they
within
don't?
The buffer.
Well, then they wouldn't be complying with this. I mean, like, I think you had a good point.
Property's
You won't
already
have,
cut. Like it could be 6 to 8 blocks that they're using. So some of it's already cut. It's not just large one piece,
No,
single piece. of action.
Yeah, we gotta
wait,
figure out a way to
time
tie
out.
that in.
Time out, that just brought up a new concern. The 1,000, so for example, the torch project, I think now is down to maybe 7 parcels. So I'm assuming we're only, and we're gonna
Property
put
line,
this language in there,
Of the,
1,000
perimeter.
feet,
Yeah,
the perimeter.
exactly.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's gonna have to be clear, because they had some concerns about interior setbacks when they first applied, because we didn't have anything saying they didn't have to meet them. So we'll add that language in. From perimeter.
But I mean, any of them that is approved is just the beginning of the hoops they have to jump through.
If that's got timber on it,
well, and yeah,
and they cut the timber, they're right to cut the timber. Then it's gonna be, there goes our buffer.
No, the buffer, that would be inside the fence.
Still have to have the 150
The
foot.
buffer's on the perimeter of the fence.
They have to leave.
Okay.
I think we need to talk to Jeff about this.
Which part?
What we're talking about right now, what to do with the restrictions of within that buffer section.
Okay.
Part of the project.
But it won't be wildlife.
Yeah, it should be.
I mean, it could.
But we need to make sure that it's in there.
Yeah.
We're covered.
Okay,
You got people get paid big dollars to take that stuff out.
okay.
See, that's what scares me about all this. One word or something forgotten. Yeah.
All right, so I have you all's feedback. At this point, how would you like to proceed? Do you want me to get with Jeff, get this cleaned up, make a mock ordinance based on your feedback, bring it back to you all? Or just take this feedback and head back to the planning commission, and I'll see you in a couple months when we make our way back? How do you wanna? What would you prefer?
Could you get the draft and send it out to us and we review it?
Mhm.
And if there's a question, we can get them to you. And that way, we're not eating up a bunch of time. We can
Yeah.
get it to you.
Sounds good.
Yep. we can
And
do
if it's a lot of questions, we can have a little section at the board meeting.
that. Okay,
Like you're saying, it has to go back through planning commission and then to us anyway. So there's a lot of opportunity for that questions and cleanup, so.
okay. And if y'all think of anything in the meantime, just let me know. Okay,
Okay?
thanks, y'all.
Want to do your thing, Chief?
Yeah, I hope, and my intention is for them both to be short. So when we went through the budget things in March and we had our meetings sitting here, the budget workshops, there were 2 things that we discussed, that with Carla transitioning out, I think we haven't had a lot of continuity to make sure that got followed through. So the first one was, we discussed, that the Baker Tilly salary study had already been implemented for the administration employees, everyone under Taylor, and those took effect on January 1st. And we said we would go ahead and move forward with the same exact process and recommendations for the constitutional offices and make those effective on January 1st also. We had the discussion, making sure that way everybody was treated fairly. They got implemented, but not to the January 1st. So the constitutional officer, and it's few people, remember, it's only a handful of people, but they didn't get that amount. And we talked about that amount from January 1st through this was already included in the prior budget, and we already had more than enough money for it. So I think we just need to clarify that amongst us so we can give some direction to administration.
Okay.
Everybody remember that? I can go into as much detail, but I think everybody remembered the conversation.
Yeah.
Did I summarize anything wrong or different than your
Active.
to January 1st?
Yeah. Like everybody, yeah.
Yeah. Was make, the plan was exactly making it the same as everybody else. All right.
What's the consensus? Tell me something.
That, I mean, that was,
What we agreed to.
Mhm.
all right. Can you make sure it gets implemented right then?
So that is for the employees in the constitutional offices that were brought to the minimum standard,
Mhm.
the dozen or so.
Yes,
Is that
exactly.
right?
Yep,
Mhm.
yep,
Okay, yeah,
yeah,
that's clear.
okay. And then, same meeting, but different topic related to salaries. We were doing all of our discussion about what would be the cost of living increase. We were trying to predict what the state was going to do, which was always a futile effort. We landed on the 5%, which turned out actually being the same thing the state landed on. So we didn't have to make up any difference, which was good. And our theory in all of that had been, we wanted everybody treated the same. Like if the state went with 3%, we didn't want, remember the sheriff's office was in here talking about it. We didn't want the deputies who were compensated by the state to only get a 3%, the deputies who were paid by the county to get the 5% because it was dissension, kind of in the ranks, et cetera. Great theory. Then the state kind of went in and did a little something we didn't predict, which was instead of starting their 5% increases on July 1st, which they normally do, because that's when the new budget cycle starts and what we did, they put it in to only start on August 1st. So it means that our intention was keep everybody the same, but then they kind of made that a little more difficult. So what's happening now is any employee who's fully paid by the county or their portion that's paid by the county got their 5% starting on July 1st. The other people, either where their whole salary is paid by reimbursed by the state or partially reimbursed by the state, they don't get their 5% until August 1st. I've gotten a call from a number of employees this week, particularly as we know the largest number are in the sheriff's office and they have a lot of people who are paid reimbursed by the state or the mix. It's kind of not sitting super well
They
with all of that.
contacted me as well. So yeah.
Yeah,
So they lost a month,
Yes.
but you don't think the state's go retroactive back to July 1?
no, the budget, their law,
No.
what the budget they passed is August 1st. Yeah,
But we did decide to give them the 5%.
When the county's
State
portion.
did this, so we were straight on that.
right. But, and we actually lucked out in that too. Well, lucked out, I don't know. We ended up better than we projected we could because at that time we
5%.
thought state might do 2%, something like that. And we said we would make up the difference on the state employees. Fortunately, we don't have to because the state contributed the 5%. So we're actually in better shape than we expected we were going to be.
But the employees that state funds 50% of that salary.
Mhm.
We give them 5% on the 50% that we provide.
On July 1st. Right. Some of them are a mix, some of them are like that, a mix 50%. Some of them are fully
Yeah,
on, fully
like-
state, so they got
Right.
nothing until August. Yeah. I feel like our intention was treat all of them the same, was the point. And we're gonna spend less than we expected we would because we have nothing to make up from the state for the rest of the year.
Mhm.
I think we should stick to that philosophy.
And just compensate those few retroactive July 1st.
Do we have a figure?
It's a little bit less than $7,000
Cover them all.
To cover them?
Mhm.
to cover
That's it?
Yeah.
the additional,
Yeah.
Just addition.
Cause it's one,
I can't afford that.
to cover to cover the comp board's shortage, which is
For one-
what it is.
For 1 month.
They paid, they gave a budget, but it's for 11 months instead of 12.
Right.
I think they told me it was $6,900.
I just think
Why are we even discussing it?
That's what I was thinking.
because
I know why we are.
I agree with you, but they're not getting it unless we say.
I mean, technically, there's a right and a wrong, and we're covering up for the state slacking.
I agree,
Well, right.
Not that we have to.
but I think
but I think
6,900 or
it's the right thing.
7,000
Yeah,
is
it's not
the
like
right
it's gonna
thing.
break the county.
Yeah. Because
And it's not like you're wasting the money.
we did say treat them all the same effective
investment.
July 1st.
Which is why I don't think we need a separate vote on it. I think we're just clarifying our intent of the
Right,
initial
that was
treat it
our
all the same.
intention, right.
And this is an example of continuing to treat them the same.
Doing it one time, wouldn't that take less work off?
It's going to make it easier on the accounting department.
Yeah.
It's been a logistical nightmare.
For the one time as opposed to
Right.
twice.
Versus, yeah,
Because you'll have to calculate a hybrid employee, you'll have to
Right.
calculate them. So
Yeah.
the first,
Each
the
one.
county's
Yeah.
increase, and then a month later, you have.
You're gonna probably spend more than $7,000 in labor trying to do that.
yeah.
Mhm.
But I do think it's a change. I think it was not anticipated. It's not a change because the board did anything different. I think it's a change in the budget because the state is not going to compensate, right? So I do think it would be cleaner if we had a motion to say, due to the state's compensation board not compensating beginning of the fiscal year, but 1 month later, we're directed to go ahead and move, and cover the difference.
In other words, the state screwed them out of some money and we're gonna make the difference up.
We do that tonight or we need to wait till?
Because we're not treating it.
Can we do it at the board meeting?
It'd be too late for their current paychecks.
You can make motions in workshops, right?
Yeah. There's no rule not to. And it's not a
We
motion.
don't have a lot of people here.
Right.
That's the problem.
Gotcha.
Somebody
We
make,
have more than ever.
I'll make the
We have
motion.
more than ever, actually.
I'll make the motion based on what Taylor just said. If anybody wants to fuss about police pay, I'll
Yeah,
bring it.
yeah.
I agree.
All right.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Thank you all. Appreciate that. I think that's the right thing to do for our employee. Both of them are, so great.
Got to treat them all fair.
That's exactly what I was going for. Totally agree.
Because the state didn't, don't mean we don't.
That's right.
I think there's a way
There are
I think we can talk next budget cycle about a way to maybe anticipate some of that and instead put it in something like the date is the same as whatever the changes are for the state or something. Like, I don't think anyone anticipated the possibility they would be not on July 1st.
I didn't.
Yeah, but I think we could work on some ways to avoid them, the cleanup next time. Thank you. Appreciate you allowing that one.
Anybody got anything else? Meeting adjourned.
Thanks.
No rain.
Hey,
Road.
yeah.